Welcome, everybody. Thank you all so much for not skipping out early for that early happy hour or something and attending the last session of the second day of the conference, maybe the third for some of you. So my name is Margaret Bowman. I am the Director of Transfer Services with Tallahassee Community College, soon to become Tallahassee State College. Just real quickly about myself, I have about 20 years in higher education, starting at the state level with the Florida college system, and then about 15 years with St. Petersburg College in the Tampa Bay area, helped to start baccalaureate programs there, and then have been with Tallahassee Community College for not quite a year yet, but starting this transfer services office that we're going to tell you a little bit about that model. And I'll introduce my co-facilitator.
Hi, I'm Heather Bishop. I am Assistant Dean in Undergraduate Studies at Florida State University, and Transfer Student Services is one of the very many things under my portfolio at Florida State. And I started also in the Florida Community College system. I did a one-year stint at the legislature with the Florida Community College and Career Prep Committee and got very interested in community colleges, and then went over to the college system, the Florida State College system, and then became the director of articulation for the state of Florida for several years. Went back to the Florida House of Representatives as the higher education policy chief, and then landed my dream job, which I'm in now, which is the assistant dean in undergraduate studies. So but have a lot of love for the whole articulation, transfer student success kind of stuff. So it's a little bit of my background. And Margaret and I worked together back at the Florida college system 24 years ago. So we've known each other for a very long time and have been working toward the same goals. So it's a match made in heaven.
Okay, so just a couple of real quick questions, just so we know who is in the room. For one thing, I'd like you to just think for a moment as we're doing these introductions, what is one essential practice? So think about that essential, the transfer playbook from CCRC and the Aspen Institute. What is one of those essential practices that you would implement immediately at your institution to improve transfer outcomes? Okay, so we're not going to ask you to actually share that at this moment, but later in the session we'll ask for some of those ideas. So first question, how many of you actually attended the morning session with going over the essential transfer book and those essential practices? Okay. Yes, I did too. So much of what they did as far as the table assessments and asking you to really assess your own institution, that was going to be our activity. We're still going to give you some information with that, but you at least kind of have that in the back of your mind, and this is kind of an extension of that conversation. Second question, how many of you are from the community college realm? Okay, very good. What about the university representation? Okay. So maybe a little bit more with universities and then community college. What about anybody maybe at the system level or, okay, awesome. Well, like I said, we represent both the community college and then of course the state university system, and then we also come from that system level at the state. So we feel like between the two of us, we have a pretty good grasp on transfer student success, but the purpose of this session is really how do you really capitalize on those partnerships between two very robust institutions, right? State institutions to really improve and optimize the transfer student experience. So our goals for today is we're going to talk about how we did that and how we used those essential practices to really help us improve and create what we now call the Aspire program. Okay, kids start at TCC with the goal and end up at Florida State University. How we assess our own institutional maturity against this framework, which is something that I would encourage you. If you are not already doing that, that is a great tool to use on a regular basis within your own institution. And then finally, leave you with some ideas on how you can develop a blueprint to strengthen partnerships to, again, optimize that transfer student experience at your own institution. So our ultimate goal and the mission of my institution or my office is creating that seamless transfer experience that is efficient, engaging, and cost effective. Okay, so that's what this is about. So, a little bit about our institutions. So, both located in Tallahassee, Florida. As I mentioned, TCC, soon to become TSC. We have about 16,000 students, both in credit and non credit programs. A majority of those are in credit programs, 70 degree and certificate programs. Some of our accolades, recent accolades, were in Achieving the Dream, College of Distinction, Aspen Top 150. And then an employer of choice, okay, which is important also because what that means, that designation indicates that you've got solid processes and systems in place to support what it is, to support your mission, basically. Some of the things that make us unique, though, from the other 27 community colleges or state colleges in Florida, 75% of our students are traditional. So they are your traditional first time in college students coming out of high school looking to get into, in our case, Florida State University for the most part. 66% of them, or 60% are full-time. 69% are AA degree seeking students. So again, with FSU being our primary institution that we work with, you can assume that a majority of that population, that AA population, is now coming through the Transfer Services Office. 59% of our students are from outside of our region. Okay, so traditional age students coming to us from other areas. So they are truly look more like that university student than what you might see in another state college in Florida. 60% of our population is within that BIPOC population. Okay, and another interesting thing is that our college is located within the most impoverished zip code in Florida. And when we talk about some of the results that we have as far as our graduation rates and then also the transferring and the some of the results at FSU, you'll see why that's important as well.
So FSU is a top 25 national public university. We are really, really proud of this. We have the highest graduation rate for transfer students with AAs in the state of Florida by far. Like we have it's 75%, our graduation rate for 3 years for our transfer AA students. We have about 45,500 students overall. 29.5 of those are undergraduates. We get about 6,000 transfer students a year, and almost 20.5% of them are transfer students. So about a fifth of our population are transfer students. So that's pretty big. We're 58% female. Used to be a little higher. The guys kind of like that it's 58% female. But 37% of our students are from BIPOC, so that we do have a high minority population. We have been increasing our standards, our admission standards, which is important because it makes our transfer students even more important for our diversity. Just as an example, this year alone, this fall 2024, we had 78,000 applications, and we're going to enroll 6,000 students for the fall, summer and fall. So it's becoming highly selective. Our middle 50% profile was a 4.3 to a 4.5 GPA average and a 1340 to a 1450 SAT. So it's becoming very, very selective, and we denied 11,000 students with a 4.0 or higher GPA for this coming term. So we have a lot of students that's why we have a lot of students coming from outside that they want to go to FSU and they're not able to get in. And they're very high achieving students, but they're needing a pathway to get into FSU. So our transfer students are becoming higher achievers too, yet we're still serving the students who are just coming out of high school not knowing really what they want to do. So we have a very diverse transfer student population. So we have had a partnership with TCC for a very long time, and it used to be called TCC to FSU, the Golden Guarantee Program. That was a little misleading because there was never truly a guarantee of admission when you got your AA degree from TCC. We have a very strong articulation agreement in the state of Florida. It's legislatively mandated. The statewide articulation agreement says that for all students who get their AA degree with 60 credit hours, they are guaranteed admission to a state university in Florida. That doesn't mean the state university of their choice or the program of their choice, but students don't really hear that. So they think, oh, if I get my AA degree, I can go to whatever university I want and major in whatever I want. So that's a problem. But Typically, if they do all the right things and take all the right prerequisites, they can do that. But that's an advising thing that we have to work on. We have a general education core articulation. So if we have statewide general education curriculum. We have an excess hours advisory statement. So students are charged money. If they take too many credits beyond what is required for the degree, they get charged a $100 fee by our legislature once they hit 120% of what's required for the degree. So our advising is very targeted to make sure that doesn't happen to students. And it's of attempted courses, not credits earned. So if they attempt beyond 120% of that degree. So that's an important part that we want to make sure our students don't take courses they don't need. FSU has mapped our academic majors for years now that we map out 8 terms, 15 credits a term, 4 years you're going to graduate. But we did not have that specifically for our community college students, but we'll talk about that in a minute. We do have that AA transfer 2+2 system that we've been built on the state of Florida, and we have had on-site advising at TCC. Our FSU advisors go over to TCC. They've been doing that for years. They schedule appointments. Each college advisor will go over once a week, do some things, and we have schedule, and we let students know that they're coming. But we recognized a few years ago that although those things were great and we had all those things, there was a need for optimization of some of those things. So we determined that although we had those wonderful legacy practices, there were some gaps that still existed. So we determined one of those things that we do was, since we had those academic maps for FSU, that was great, and students could go onto our website and look up those maps for a major they were interested in. But some of the courses that were taken during the freshman and sophomore years were courses that might have been available at FSU, but weren't available at TCC. Or they might not realize that, well, if I took this course, it might meet a requirement at FSU, but it doesn't tell me that over here at TCC. So we designed specific Aspire maps for the first 2 years for every major at FSU that a TCC student should take with courses that are available at TCC. So for a business major, a student who goes to TCC that knows they want to major in finance, for example, can take courses that are offered by TCC that will meet all of the prerequisites and all of the courses ready to be set for junior year to get accepted with their AA degree as a finance major at FSU. Not only will they get accepted, but it will be optimized so that some of the upper division requirements that are things like civic literacy or some other requirements, those will be met as well. So they're optimizing their 60 degree credits in their AA to be right on track to be able to graduate in 2 years when they get to FSU. That has never happened before, and the students love it. They want to know, instead of taking 60 hours and then realizing, oh, well, I could have taken that course and it would have counted toward this graduation requirement if I'd known during my AA. They're now taking those courses and optimizing those 60 credits at the lower division so that they're then well on their way when they get there. That's been huge. We've been clarifying that admission guarantee is really only a guarantee if you meet all the admission requirements, like if there's a limited access situation where you have to have a certain GPA to get in, or you have certain prerequisites you have to meet, you have to do all those things. It's not just get my AA and I'm in. We have aligned our prerequisites for limited access programs so that they're available at TCC. We've been working on that. We have sequenced university requirements at the AA level. We've encouraged them to complete their foreign language requirements if it's a requirement that's required for their baccalaureate degree so that they're not having to take those when they get to the college. A lot of ways to optimize those first 60 credits. And then we've been requiring students to identify their intended major early so that they can avoid excess hours. So our value proposition is provide a seamless transfer for students who want to attend FSU, but also want a more personalized and affordable experience prior to transitioning fully to the university level. And that's where Margaret's group has come in.
That's okay. Thank you. So, in a sense, we're in a little bit of a lucky position, and I say that at TCC because our students, you saw the numbers that Heather mentioned as far as the number of applicants and the level of student, the profile that's coming to us. However, in spite of that, there are still nuances to every student. Every student, for the most part, is different, right? We can serve, it's like the Pareto principle, right? 80-20, right? So these students that are coming to us, high performing, high GPAs, a lot of articulated credit. Okay, for many of them, this is their first, as they call it, rejection. Okay, so that required us, our two presidents, and this is really what made this happen and what brought to life the Aspire program. Looking at their numbers, looking at the increasing profile of FSU's applicant, the increasing numbers of applications every fall, and realizing they can't. You guys are pretty much maxed out at about 6,000 students. So actually had a conversation about what if we could impact even just 10% of those students at TCC, 2 miles away from FSU. Bring those students in, but give them a different experience. Okay, they want to start feeling like I am at a university. They want that college experience that in a lot of community colleges, because so many of your students are, they live there, they're working. The institution I came from before, our typical profile was 27-year-old female seeking a career change. So very different population, and they are really wanting that college experience that they have worked so hard for. So that was the goal. 2022, I think. So repurpose the existing TCC to FSU program into what is now known as the Aspire program. So FSU's Aspire program at Tallahassee State College, soon to be. And that required a very different approach to how we work with our students. So we have a very large and robust advising center within the student union that's very transactional, and they have to be, because we have about 6,000, as I said, of our students are seeking that AA degree. Probably close to 5,000 of them at last count are actually in that Aspire program. So a majority of those students now, we see ourselves as an extension of the advising office. We're really trying to complement what they do. But as we're working more and more with these families, and I say families because our students, when they're coming in, 18 years old, okay, your traditional students, parents are still very much involved. So we also have to tend to their needs. So really a very different approach to how we work with them. You've heard the phrase meeting your student where they are. Basically that's it, but it is more on that social level. And I've heard today alone the word empathize. Okay, so that is so much of what we do, is take the time, sit down, listen to the student and the family story, help them realize that you're still going to go to FSU. We want you at FSU as badly as you do. And coming to TCC is not the worst thing. Okay, it's not what you were striving for, but we're going to help you get there, and we're going to make you feel and become a part of FSU's culture from your first semester here. Okay, so how we engage the students. The one thing I will say also is we're, again, very lucky because we're 2 miles from FSU, about the same distance from FAMU, which is an HBCU. So we have a similar program. It's called the Ignite program. So much of what we do with FSU, we're also doing with FAMU. So those were our wildly important goals, basically, just 10% growth. And then they wanted us to have a minimum of 8 shared experiences annually. Shared experiences is where our students are engaging in, whether it be events, workshops, faculty meet and greets with FSU students and FSU faculty. So what we did, how we did this is really a 4-step process. And I'll quickly go through that because this is where the work that occurred with TCC. FSU had an existing transfer services office. So it was a matter of how do we replicate what the university is doing, but also make it relevant to our students. So the number of things that we did first is inventory and optimizing those current practices. Okay, so we looked at some of the things that Heather talked about, those existing pathways. We looked at our first year experience, the different things that we did for that. And then of course, our partnership. Okay, that's what really had opportunity for strengthening. Didn't help that we also have been very close friends for 20-some years. That makes it a little easier. But we then conducted a market analysis, really getting an understanding of who our student is. What does our student profile look like? And when I say embracing that target population, that's where that customization of the experience and the service comes in. Okay, we cannot look at the student as the mass, as fitting the typical profile. So it's understanding it, but then embracing that population, which means mom and dad are there sometimes too. Okay. We organize our data and we use our data, and that's an area that there's continuous opportunity is to be able to really focus in on making sure that we are measuring, we're collecting the correct things that help us improve this whole process. So adopting a concierge mindset. So I spoke about that just a moment ago. The best thing I can say is really, again, if you're looking at a center such as our advising center, where they just have so many numbers. So because of their caseload for each of our advisors, they have to be transactional. Okay, and again, 80% of our students, they're fine. They can go up, they can get what they need from their advisor in about 10 to 15 minutes. Again, our students, 4.0 and higher, dreams crushed because of Heather. Just kidding. um, but that's where we have to be transformative. Okay, so it is, again, taking the time, empathizing, hearing the story, and some of these the stories will break your heart, because one thing that we also see are, for some reason, student athletes, right? That they will have been given a scholarship or an athletic scholarship, and then some life gets in the way, and then they come to us. So we're helping them navigate through all of that, and what kind of your credits can we salvage so you're not starting from the beginning. And then rely on best practices, okay? So how many of you actually use the CCRC, the Aspen playbook, transfer playbook? Okay, awesome. I'm old school, so we both have hard business cards for you, but I also have about 25 printouts of the assessment that we use from that playbook. Feel free to take one. We can pass them out if you'd like, but that's your starting point, okay? So for step one, assessing the essential practices, again, this is coming right out of the playbook. You saw we had some areas of strength. So this really is the assessment that was done prior to me coming on board. So it was my vice president, our president, our chief of staff, some of the folks in the leadership team that really sat down and said, okay, what are we doing well against this framework? Had a couple of areas of strength really at that established level. So as Heather said, we did have programs of study in place. Okay, for transfer students that were mapped to FSU's curriculum with specific requirements of FSU. And then the students are exposed early, once they're in college, to the expectation and the options for transfer degrees, okay, or for transfer options. So we had a lot more opportunities. I would say this one right here, each institution has at least one transfer champion who serves as a point person for the exchange of information and the raising of concerns between partners. So again, FSU had that, and I would say TCC had that as well. But the individual, I would say our vice president that had responsibility for that, also had responsibility for student conduct, for the advising center, for veterans center, for everything else that falls under student affairs. Okay, so that was I think what our president saw was a really good opportunity to capitalize on. Oops. Okay. So assessing our essential practices, this was some of the information that came from the market analysis. Heather already touched on the profile, so we really looked not necessarily at our data and our students, but FSU students, okay? More importantly, those who were being redirected, okay? We never say to our students anymore, the parents will call, well, they were rejected from FSU. No, redirected, just redirected, a little bump in the road. Yes, yeah. So you'll see. So as she talked about that, so that was a big part of our market analysis that we use. That is our student profile. Oops, I keep pointing to you, clicking you. The second step in that process is to build the infrastructure. Okay, so this is where your presidential support comes in. Our president, TCC's president, said about a year ago, this is an important enough goal to both institutions that we are going to allocate, TCC will allocate and build a new office with 3 full-time employees. Okay, so a director, a transfer outreach coordinator, and then an experiences or a programs coordinator. We also have OPS support, and then a huge extension of our program, we have 10 student ambassadors. Okay, they are the face of our college and of our campus. They conduct tours, but they're the ones that speak to the students and really connect with those students that are considering coming to TCC. Okay, and I'll let...
So as we said, we had a transfer student services office in place, but we have expanded tremendously, and we have really branched out into the university as well. And what we've done is not only worked with TCC, but we have also worked within our university community to elevate the importance of transfer students on our campus. You know, a highly successful university that's trying to increase its national reputation, et cetera, as you can imagine, a lot of the faculty don't give transfer students a second thought, right? Or they have preconceived notions about transfer students. So you would hear like, oh, the transfer students aren't as well prepared, or the transfer students, you know, they're not going to do as well. And in reality, the faculty don't know who the transfer students are in their classes, right? They don't stick out and go like, they don't wear a scarlet T on their shirt, right? Saying, I'm a transfer student, I'm not going to do well, right? No, they do just as well. As you see, their graduation rates are great. Our transfer student retention rate fall to fall is 93%. That's great, right? Our FTIC is 96%, which is also great, right? But I mean, they're doing great. They don't know, so we are changing that rhetoric. We're changing their attitudes about that. It's been great. We have been partnering with the College of Business. We've been partnering with the College of Communications and getting them to partner with us and realizing that not only are transfer students not less than, they bring something to the table, right? They actually enrich our community, our university community. They bring experiences. They bring, you know, perspectives that our other students don't bring. Our incoming baby freshmen, and they're 18 years old, they bring something, right? So we've been really building that up. Our president, who was a transfer student. He grew up in Texas. He chose his community college courses based on what his roommate was taking because he had to hitch a ride to the college with his roommate. Okay. He then went on to become the vice president for research at Carnegie Mellon University, then the vice president for research at Harvard, and now he's the president at Florida State University. So talk about an inspiring transfer student story, right? So he is very supportive of our transfer students. But what we have done is really expand the services and expand the sense of belonging. We have a freshman first-year experience kind of thing called Engage 100, where the freshmen come in, we train peer leaders to teach a 1-credit course, 0 to 1 credit course, to every freshman student that is required that they take in their first fall semester that they're there, where peer leaders teach them all about the resources that FSU has to offer, helps them get engaged, right? Takes them on excursions, helps them get a smaller, since it's a big university, get them smaller. Well, we determined that transfer students need that too. So I helped train, and we developed a curriculum for transfer leaders to be transfer students, teach incoming transfer students that one course. They teach each other. The transfer students were so hungry for that. It's voluntary right now, but we've already seen a really good return on our investment. That's transfer students that take that course do better. They don't end up on probation, right? So we have that. They are eating it up. We started a peer mentor program. It started with 20 mentors. By the next semester, there are so many volunteers, 100 mentors. We are building that. We have coaching for our transfer students. It is just ballooning and blossoming because the transfer students, they don't have as much time when they come in. They want to feel welcome. They love it. We are building this incredible experience for our transfer students. So because we've been able to do that, now we're able to take those peer leaders and mentors and take them and bring them over to TCC. So now because we've established that at FSU, we're able to start mentoring students before they come FSU. So now we're able to branch out. Once we've got it established on our end, we can bring them over and start mentoring and having ambassadors bring FSU students to TCC events, and then they can connect with students before they even come. And then we're going to start kind of having a homegrown program where then those students who come over will then become the peer mentors of the students, and we're going to kind of build our own program, and it's going to become a self-sustaining kind of event. So we're very excited about that. And once you get it started, it kind of builds on itself.
Okay, so quickly go through the rest of this because I do want to hear what kind of questions you all have as far as some of the obstacles you think you might encounter, how we might be able to encourage or motivate. But anyways, so the third step is engaging your stakeholders. Okay, so thinking about both your internal but then also your external stakeholders. So you can see in our case who is important in both of those scenarios. Down at the bottom, I have VOS, which stands for Voice of the Student. So we laugh in our office because we do have the 10 ambassadors who are students in our program. So traditional age students. Part of what we're supposed to do is come up with activities that 18-year-old kids want to do. And I'm like, look, you've got 3 mothers of high schoolers here. So number one, please clean up after yourself. But secondly, if we design activities for you all that we think students are going to, no, it's not going to be it. So we take every opportunity to hear from students, to hear from prospective families. What's important to you? Okay, coming into the program, but once you're here, what do you need to help you feel like you belong? What are those activities that you want both here and at FSU? So, see, I did it again. So one of the things that we implemented, we do tours, campus tours, 3 days a week, twice a day. At the end of the tour, we will bring the families in, just to give them a quick Q&A session, answer whatever questions they have. But then we ask them, okay, you've had an opportunity to explore the campus, to meet with students, hear their stories. We want to know, number one, what was this experience like for you? But more importantly, now that you've had this experience, you've been on our campus, you've heard from other students, how likely is it that you are to enroll or apply to the Aspire program? Because that helps us then predict, okay, number one, how are we doing as far as these tours are concerned, but also the likelihood to enroll, which is a very good leading metric for us, okay? And then the final step is launch and let go, okay? And I say that, again, referring back to our president. So they launched the program, but you talk about having 100% trust in us, in our office. Every idea sounds like a good idea. We're throwing spaghetti at the wall, but it's supported. So you have to have that leadership and that culture where they truly let you go, let you run with the mission or the purpose that you were hired to do. Okay, and I know I've been in situations where that's not always the case, and sure, it can be stifling, but not here. Real quickly, just go through again, this is at TCC, the early results. So again, I started in June of 2023, so coming up on my 1 year, but we really looked at, Aspire had really started marketing it, putting things in place in January of last year. So we're able to see early results that spring to spring. I'm excited for fall when we're able to see that because of the results we're seeing in spring. But what you'll see first is we've had an 8.7 increase in the application to enrolled yield rate. Okay, so one of the things that we're looking at, trying to get those who are interested, I will say many of our applicants come from FSU. Okay, so they share with us their denial list, but they have to get approval, obviously, from the students. They will tell them, thank you, you're a high-performing student. However, because of capacity issues, and we strongly encourage you or invite you to apply to our Aspire program. If they indicate yes, that they will do that, or one of the pathway programs, and agree to share their information, they send that list over. We got our first list last week. That process will continue on a weekly basis through July. Okay. Secondly, we had a 10% increase in our prospect to student score. So again, that's what we ask at the end of that survey. Okay, so that likeliness to apply or to enroll. So these are kids in either their junior year or their senior year. And what we're really focusing on is that first time in college student, and that's helping us with that measure. New areas of strength established. So we sat down with our staff, again, with the playbook, those essential practices, and said, okay, where do we think we are, okay, in this process right now? So we had some new areas of strength emerge. I think under the advanced, substantial resources are dedicated to the transfer function as indicated by a fully staffed transfer office separate from our advising center. Programs of study for transfer students are clearly mapped. So that was a strength before, but now because of some of what Heather talked about, how we're getting closer and closer to that alignment and making sure that students are really maximizing their credit requirements, that's just now something that we consider to be advanced. So more results, 4.7% increase in enrollment and student semester hours spring to spring in year one. So 4.7 doesn't seem like a lot, but when you think about it and you put that in terms of what that means as far as student semester hours, I'll show you what that results in just a moment. So remember early on our presidents wanted to see 8 shared experiences. So this is a snapshot of our master calendar, so our planning and events calendar. It's color-coded based on the institution that we're working with, either FSU or FAMU, and then of course instances where we have just opportunities for our students on our campus to engage. Some pictures. This was a kind of a meet and greet that we had for first year students. September, I think we held that. So just different events. FSU Day, they do that once a semester. And our enrollment or our participation in that is FSU Day. Yeah, so gosh, one of the big events on twice a semester, FSU will come over in our ballroom, and we have representatives from the administrative offices, financial aid, scholarship, your admissions and records, so transfer services, different clubs and organizations. And they also have advisors from all of the different programs and colleges.
I just think this is really important. It is a big advertised day, and we get 350 students coming by every semester, and they come and we get repeats too. So a student will come, they know they want to major in business, they will come and meet with the business advisors on that day. They will go over it with them, talk to them, and then while they're there, they can also meet with admissions and financial aid and transfer student services and maybe veterans and maybe, the career center and different things and from FSU that come to them on TCC's campus. They can also, if they might be interested in multiple majors, meet with a different college or talk about something else with another college and figure that out. And then the next semester they come and talk to them and go, hey, here's what I'm doing. How am I doing? Let's meet again. And they establish relationships with those advisors. It's really, really good. And it's growing every single term.
Yeah, they also, FSU will have advisors from their different programs on a weekly basis. And so they'll send different ones. So there's always somebody there to speak with our students. The other thing, we have done 2 FSU application workshops. The first one we did in our little conference room. It was kind of a drop-in. We're like, next time we need a bigger space. We did it upstairs in our advising center. I think they had over 70 people. So representatives from FSU admissions sitting down with students, all at a computer, helping students through that application. Okay, so I said about what's so significant about a 4.7% increase in student semester hours, return on investment. Okay, so that is the biggest thing in our year one early results. We had an 18.67 return on investments. Hello, there we go. So basically what that means is that what we brought in exceeded the cost of operations within our office. Okay, so with that, we were able to make a case to our president and say, things are going so well, we need help. And he said, I knew this day would come. But let me hear your pitch, basically. So you'll see this was our current or our existing model, and then I am just hired two new two folks. So one is staff assistant to help with the administrative stuff, but then a transfer specialist to help with that outreach and recruitment coordinator. Okay, some of the evaluations of transcripts, different things like that. So we always have goals, though, always have goals. This is not going to come without the expectation of continued growth. And here's how we're going to grow. Okay, and our president is, again, looks for those metrics and looks to see how we're meeting those. Okay, so that is the overall process, four-step process. We marry that with that CCRC Aspen best essential practices from the playbook. I would like to open it to you, though. 42, I think we have 8 minutes, just to see what questions do you have. And if there are no questions, I'll ask you questions as far as what obstacles or what strengths do you think you have in place. But for now, any just questions? Yes. I think we're supposed to give you the mic. No? Okay. Okay.
Recording. It is just as a required course, the transfer course. It is not a required course right now. We modeled it after the Engage 100 course for the freshman course. The freshman course started out as not a required course, but then they did data looking at it and determined that it was so good and such a good impact that they made it a required course. We are planning to go along the same route to see if it really does have the impact that we think it's going to have, and so far it's looking pretty good. If it does have that, we may make it a required course, depending. We're going to see how it goes, with an opt-out option, depending on, if students are in particular programs or need, But I think that it may be something, it depends on how much we can get students to volunteer to be in it. Because if we can get a big enough, volunteer participation, we may not have to require it. But I feel like it's so beneficial for students that we may end up wanting to require it, but we're going to see how it goes. We don't want to require it until we know the data shows that it's necessary. Other questions? The student, yes, it's an optional 0 to 1 credit. The student can choose. That's why, because it's required, we don't want to force the students to pay for 1 credit. So they can choose, and it's an SU course as well. It's SU grading, so they get an S or a U. It's pass-fail. So it does not affect their GPA, and they can take it for 0 credit or 1 credit. And the transfer course is an upper division credit too. So it's a 3,000 level course. So it counts as an upper division credit. So that's why if they want to take it for 1 credit, it can count toward their upper level credits. But they don't have to if they don't want to pay for it. So that's part of why it's that optional.
That's a great question, because that's what we have been talking about. As of right now, the application process is, if you apply to TCC and you indicate on your application that you intend to transfer to FSU, you are in the Aspire program. However, we have been brainstorming, thanks to this conference. We are really excited about it. Remember, our students in the Aspire program are FSU bound. Okay, so what we see, particularly last Thursday, I think it was, when that big round of, I don't want to call them rejection letters, denial letters came out, we started getting those calls. We started hearing, the very sad stories. But the other questions also are, well, how can I get my child into Aspire? How do we get into that program? How competitive is it? So what we're hearing is, yeah, they still want to know and feel that they're part of that dream, so to speak. However, so we're talking about there will be an application process to it, but that application is really more of a contract where we're able to set those expectations early on that is actually going to drive students to participate in those experiences that we know are going to set them up for success. So for example, I understand that as part of FSU's Aspire program at TSC, I will meet with my advisor at least once a semester. I will declare an intended major that first semester. I will attend a pre-orientation session. I will attend FSU Day. I mean, all of this. So it's, yep. Right. Yes. So, okay, we didn't get that far. So there's always one in the crowd. No, but yes. So those are the logistics that we have to work out because that then is going to create another thing. But we were talking about what was it? There was a word that, and we said, well, invest. Okay, so invest in your success. And so we said, okay, invest. You think about financial stuff, right? Well, what if our Aspire students who agree to these things, they have the portfolio, basically. So somehow we'll have to flag, we'll have to identify how to capture that information. But yes, this literally was at lunchtime.
And there will be no penalty for them not completing these things because there is no requirement that any student enroll in the or be in the Aspire program in order to transfer to FSU, right? There is no any student that goes to TCC and completes all the requirements and applies to FSU can go to FSU and get accepted. But they will get a lot more support and a lot more direction if they do this. So this is them saying, yes, I want to be a part of this program and I want to get all of the benefits, but I am going to commit to doing my part to get all of these benefits. So it's more of like an investment and a commitment. It's them making a commitment. We say, we will provide you with all of the support and all of these wonderful things if you say, yes, I am all in, I want to be in this program. And so it's really more of a contract of commitment, I mean, we're not going to kick you out, so to speak. We're not going to tell them that. We'll let them think that we're going to kick them out, but we're not going to actually kick them out. Yes.
Mhm. Yeah, thank you for that question. So it's actually for anybody in the state. So we have our primary populations, obviously, within our 3-district area. So we do get a lot of high schoolers, yep, so folks in their junior, senior year that are coming through for that. But we also get across Florida, we get people, New York is a big draw for us as well. So it's really anybody. We'll have high schools down in, say, South Florida, actually, that they'll bring a bunch of different high schools up for that. And the second part of your question was, yes, it is at TCC. So we talk about we talk about TCC as a whole, but we also say, okay, who's planning FSU, who's planning FAMU, so we're able to answer questions based on their intended institution. I was going to say something else with that. Oh, the other thing, get a little plug for it. So we also have an Aspire Day every spring, April 19th. That is for anybody who has either already applied to or been admitted at TCC and plans to transfer to FSU, a time for their families to come up. This year, I think you know this, we're going to have a tour of FSU in the morning, a more specific tour in the morning, and then they'll come on campus where they can get one-stop shopping. So they'll hear from different offices. They'll have a chance to apply if they have not already. They'll also have a chance to enroll. But then we have kind of like a carnival atmosphere for them too. So that's kind of a big thing that we do too.
We'll play like the war chant, Yeah. And we're gonna probably get some majorettes, FSU majorettes. I work with the marching chiefs, and I was a majorette at FSU, so I'm gonna get the majorettes to come and perform and wow them a little bit. You know, we want to get them like really excited about, hey, I'm going to go to FSU, you know, like, but then we also are going to have TCC events and ambassadors. So because we really want them to not be like, I just want to get through here and go to FSU, right? We want them to, and when I talk to the parents, I do the parent talk at Aspire Day, and I always say, look, make sure you talk to your children about, and when I talk to the students too, like, don't try to rush through your time here at TCC. Take this as this is a step in your journey. Take advantage of all the things that are here, because there are some really great resources here. And think about this as this is where I'm supposed to be. And I'm supposed to be here because this is going to prepare me. And if I utilize the resources that TCC has for me, and I utilize the parts of the Aspire program, I'm going to be so prepared to end up at FSU in the best possible place that I am. So be here, be involved. Don't be like, oh, I can't wait to get out of here so I can just get to FSU. Utilize all the things that are here. This is the best case scenario for you, you know? And so be an eagle and then become a knoll. Like, take advantage of everything here, and you're going to have the best experience and you will never regret it.
Okay, I believe our time is up. We do have, like I said, cards up here. If any of you are old-fashioned and would like our business cards, there's the playbook or the assessment. But thank you all for your interest, and enjoy the rest of the conference.